Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. Got a really awesome guest on today, and I'll describe him briefly. In his 20s, he explored the globe, gaining an informal education through extensive travel. Following brief studies in history and humanities, he immersed himself in a fulfilling retail career, progressing as a senior leader, sales manager, and HR expert. And he's now approaching his fifth year as a realtor, where he's discovered his true passion. Please join me in welcoming Darren St. Laurent. Welcome.
Thank you, Thomas. What an intro. I love that you found my bios and took the time to set that up. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
No worries. You ready for 20 questions?
Sure, let's go for it.
Here we go. Number one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, I that's a good question. It could be a conversation starter. It's also like a small talk starter. And you seem like your podcast is a lot about innovative people in different, obviously unique ways. It illustrates sort of where people how they found their way to their careers. So yeah, I mean, I'm a sort of a Metro Vancouver original, as I believe you are as well. We seem like feel like we're rare sometimes. Yeah, child of the 80s. Yeah, I'm just a guy really. What I do for a living, licensed realtor in Vancouver here, and I specialize in residential resales and soon to be pre-sales. So yeah, I mean, I guess what I would like to say is what I really do is try to connect people in whatever industry I'm in, sort of to the big picture, so they can feel connected to what they're doing.
Awesome. So just to note for our audience, Darren and I do know each other from years and years ago. Kind of grew up, grew up. I guess you call it grew up in
I
Vancouver.
think so. We were, yeah, oh yeah, for sure. We did grow up. Yeah.
And
I thought you were gonna say grown up since we met. And since
yeah,
I think we were in our 20s, yeah, there's been growing up since then for sure.
so yeah, Darren and I know each other. Okay, so number two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think I would say what makes me different is probably that I think things are not always what they seem, and it's probably the opposite, I believe, of what we most often hear. So for me, we're talking about the conspiracy theory scale, I actually found that things are usually less scary and nefarious than people might think. So yeah, this I found to be an unusual outlook, and it's not that I'm just super rosy and optimistic, although I guess I am a little bit of those things. I think what I've found is that when you look under the surface, things are a lot plainer than people realize. So I don't really buy into a lot of Wizard of Oz kind of pulling the string stuff. For me, I think if you look, you'll discover some pretty plain facts if you look closely enough.
Great. Just a couple more notes for the audience. So if you're liking the Vancouver angle of this, definitely check out the episode with Marion Banshees, who's based on Bowen Island, which is just near Vancouver. And also check out Dr. Garnet Hurt's episode. He's been getting some local press quite a bit these days and is a real staple and early supporter of the show. So number three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, why I do what I do is I think it really matters. I think it matters for me to be who I am in my career now in real estate. And I think with 15,000 realtors, it's very crowded, and it's come to be oft sort of malign and perceived to be shady operation. And there's reason for that. There's been public mistrust, and I just don't believe that it needs to be that way. And I think that I came to this by instinct. And but it's no accident. So one of my things is I like I sort of alluded to earlier, kind of like things are not as always as they seem. I think things can be really plain and transparent for people. So I guess I picked real estate as sort of a hobby, and it was time for a career change. it was super obvious for me to jump on this. And what I've loved learning over the last few years is actually how I can operate successfully and sort of like demystify what we do.
And it's
If
been,
that makes sense.
yeah, well, it's been a real path for you, right? Because you're with Rennie now, right?
Yeah, I am with Rennie now, and that is super exciting on its own. Yeah, I joined Rennie a month ago, and one of the managing brokers sat me down because I've been through several brokerages in 4 years, which is sort of funny. Even my partner was like, "What are people going to think?" I thought, oh, I actually don't really care. On one hand, the only people that are going to notice are probably other realtors, really. But what I found when I came to Rennie, because I've been with Apple for so many years, is I thought, wow, this is actually a little bit like the Apple of real estate, like everything is super polished. People care about what they do, and the actual space itself is an art gallery on its own. So there's a piece of it here that I feel quite home, actually.
Great, great. So number four, some people struggle with, but the question is, what does your future look like?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, people do struggle with it. We can talk about why, probably all the way to kingdom come, right? Yeah, I have plans and dreams like everybody. I believe that you create your reality. So yeah, I have things I want to do. I just actually was divorced 3 years ago. So that was like a really big life shake up, and being in your 40s is often the time we reassess what our values are and sort of like change direction. So now I have a fresh, clean slate, and I'm really happy with where my career is going. So for me, I don't know, I kind of imagine sort of two streams. Like part of me wants to be, on a beach in Nicaragua, surfing and exploring and reading and doing this kind of thing. And then the other side of me is like, well, I have a big runway in my career, and I'd love to have a successful team and be mentoring people and showing people, well, my unique way to this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's room for me to keep both dreams going, and maybe there's a nice hybrid that I can find one day.
Nice, I love it. So number five we say is unique to this show, and the question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Sure. I mean, it's funny when you said that, because I thought place is really interesting, because real estate is my business and place is what I do. And so I think I'll start with a simpler bit to it. Place I've come to realize is like your surroundings, really, like your living room and your office, and where you breathe and how you look at the sun and what colors you have around you. That matters a lot. I didn't think it used to, and I found it really come to learn this in the last few years, that it matters to me a great deal. And then I also think about our city as well. And yeah, you're from Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a love-hate relationship with it, or do you purely love it, or what? Like what?
Me, yeah, I like the clean air and clean water. That's what I always say. You can't replace that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's like different a little bit for those of us that are from Metro Vancouver. I think for me personally, everyone here is on their grand adventure, and this is their destination. And it's easy if you're from here to take it for granted. It almost can be a punching bag in some ways with all the jokes and whatnot. So yeah, I dream about other places sometimes, like in the Okanagan or other Toronto even, or LA, who knows. But yeah, I've come to appreciate her, and she teaches me to stay humble, and the grass is not always greener, and it's beautiful here.
Yeah, we had a similar product.
Nice. Number six, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your younger self?
Okay, this is a really terrible question in some ways. It's tough, because I think one of life's challenges is sort of like accepting who and what you are, and then you can't, once you start pulling at the wool of the sweater, then you may end up undoing what you are. So I don't know, I would say probably nothing, but on the other hand, I'm very impulsive and a little bit wild. So I would say maybe I wish I'd learned to manage money better at a younger age. That's probably a very boring answer, but yeah, on that note, I think my wild streak has opened doors for me. So I would say uh, I wouldn't change too much, even with my flaws.
Nice. Okay, number 7. What's a day in your life like?
A day of my life, day of my life is you know, I'd say getting up and just feeling out what my mental state is and figuring out what my capacity is. Gym and coffee and work is like the first things I do. Um, yeah, I try not to get too sucked into social media for many hours, or I'll end up sitting on myself for a wallowing. So yeah, I try to get out right away and yeah, and drink my coffee, go to the gym, head to the office. I do better when I interact with the people, so that makes me happy.
Cool. Okay, lifelong learning. Lifelong learning is a
Lifelong learning.
popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
I actually love this question. You might be amused to know that I have lifelong learning tattooed on my body. It's I got it done in Thailand in 2010. It just seemed like something that appealed to me, and it's very sort of Buddhist tenet that people in Thailand embrace. When a Thai person spots it here in Vancouver, they usually come up to me and go, "Wow, that's really incredible." And I don't know if I knew how powerful that was going to be at the time. But yeah, how I stay up to date is I used to read a lot of news. I find it kind of jangles my nerves now. So I just take what I need so I can sort of figure out what's going on in the world. I like to listen to podcasts if there's something I'm more curious about. And yeah, for my business, I have special tools for staying on top of like the market. And I read a lot of news articles about it.
Cool. That as well into number 9. What tools do you use? Do you use both digital and analog tools?
Yeah, good segue. I'm kind of sometimes I feel like I'm a bit chained to my MacBook, so I try to sort of sprint through what needs to be done on there in a few hours. I guess theoretically I'm a digital nomad, but being an extrovert, I'll get weird if I stay at home and only try to work on the computer. I need people. So for me personally, am I a digital nomad? No. Tools, Mac, lots of professional software. And I have to have sort of one or two like spiritual self-help theories bubbling at any given time to keep it distilled. Otherwise, the tools tend to proliferate and they become their own like weird AI creature on their own, and then it becomes counterproductive. And then lately, I've been embracing pen and paper. Not bad.
Nice. 10, work-life balance. How do you deal with it?
Yeah, that's a moving target. I love escapes. Sort of an escape artist. Like this was back to my 20s. You read my bio. I did when not knowing what to do or feeling overwhelmed, kind of took off to Southeast Asia for a few months at a time. And I think the unkind way is to be like running away or escaping, but I learned so much from those experiences that made me who I am. So how I deal with work-life balance, I think it's important for me personally to have people to show up. So even if no one meets me that day, like I will like coming into here at Reading office and saying hello to some of my peers, how are you? And then I just find that breeds collaboration. And yeah, so for me, showing up for people, and then because I am a bit obsessive, like for my ADD, I try to pick healthy ones. And that's where the work-life balance comes in. I was never athletic as a kid. So my big FU to my male peers that crushed me in school is embracing sort of sports and fitness.
Okay, we're past halfway now. Number 11. If you weren't doing what
Okay.
you do now, what would you be doing?
Okay. Do you find people usually answer like their FOMO career, or they talk about their fantasy, Thomas?
Everyone's different. Some people struggle with it actually. I wouldn't say there's a pattern to this one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I always my first response when I heard this question on your other podcasts were that I always wanted to be a lawyer. Now I don't think that's true necessarily. So there's like fantasy careers. Like I wish I could be a mine pilot. I wish I could be a professional athlete. The reality is, I think if I had unlimited sort of time and money and I wanted to explore the most, I think I would probably go back and take a history degree and travel and see what I can do with it.
Nice. 12, what
A
would
little
you,
all over the map, sorry.
oh, what would you not like to do with your career?
What would I not like to do with my career? I think probably just accept mediocrity or fear. I think because I have, taken risks in life, I don't want to subscribe to too much pattern. But then there's a little bit of arrogance in there, like in real estate. What works really well is actually doing things a certain way in terms of methodology. So I would say, that being set aside, I still don't want to just settle in and die slowly. That's what I don't want to do.
Good stuff. Do you have a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Yeah, I actually found a new one by Robert Sharma, and it's funny because I should probably study more about who this person is, but the favorite quote is, "The way you do one thing is the way you do everything."
Nice. And a least favorite?
I actually, this is hard a little bit. Least favorite, I don't know if it's a quote exactly, but there's just a few catchphrases that people say that really irritate me. I like to study politics, and when people say I'm a fiscal conservative and a social progressive, it bugs me a bit, because if they knew how politics and government work, that's almost not possible. But that one bugs me. I did some research because everyone's an expert these days. That one kind of bothers me a bit. I think it takes a lot more to study and know what you're talking about than to catch it on Facebook. That's all.
Nice. You're choosing one word to describe yourself. What word do you choose?
That is a tough one, Thomas. One day I want to know what yours is, but I think for me personally, imaginative, I'd probably say, because yeah, my mind is always going and I like to dream, and it can do beautiful things for me. It also gets me in all kinds of trouble too. So I find the paradox in life quite present there. Imaginative, I'd say.
Great. Final stretch here. What keeps you up at night?
I think what keeps me up at night probably maybe like not being successful or being left behind, left in the dust. There's probably like some childhood business in there, but yeah, I would, for me personally, I'd say letting people down or being left behind. I will wake up and think, oh my God, I didn't call that person back today. And you know what's funny is I owe you an apology too, because we were supposed to do this a year ago and I had to leave it. So there you go. You catch me up at night.
It's meant to be. What's a dream
Yeah.
you're chasing?
Yeah, a dream I'm chasing. It's probably pretty nebulous. I'd say like freedom. And a lot of people will say to, find out what your big why is, or find out what's the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, it's just being able to feel that, yeah, I can do whatever I want, study what I want, see any of the stuff, play any game, do it. Yeah. So yeah, that's something that we're all working towards, and also see that we already have in our hands in a lot of ways. So we'll recognize it as part of it.
Great. And last few here. What inspires you?
Yeah, fearlessness for sure. I think when I see like leaders, like for example, even political leaders, like because we hate political leaders a lot of times, but the reality is they got in the business because they believe they could lead and they were fearless about it. And a lot of times, even the ones we think of as the worst, they stand up every day, and I really respect that. And yeah, innovative business people, of course, Steve Jobs, Bob Burney, God, Brian, here we go. Sure, those are the fearlessness and the willingness to stand up.
Great. And any advice you'd like to share?
Any advice I'd like to share? Yeah, you are what you eat is probably one of the biggest pieces, and it has nothing to do with food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that what you surround yourself with and what you read and what you consume is what you become.
Great. And the self-promotional one, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you? What's our call to action?
What's the call to action? Yeah, I would love to do what you do, Thomas, so maybe one day I'll have a podcast or I'll be blogging my own. I would say follow me on Instagram at Darren Real Estate. That's probably like my main hub for information. And www.darrensaint-laurent.com. Right now, you'll just find my ready page, but that will be growing and evolving as time goes on. Instagram, I will love to know more about you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I know we were scheduled for a year ago, and miraculously, this thing's still going a year later, and we get to do this. So
You've done really well, Thomas.
so glad to have you here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining today.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Okay.